welcome to Dargan Gaming Squad, and today we're going to be doing another set of RPGaDay Questions 2018. This time we're doing 6 through 12, which is the How edition. So the first question we're going to be doing, and I'll let Chris start off with this, how can players make a world seem more real?
Well, for starters, I think interacting with the world itself. I always think of, and it's funny, I'm so glad Mary's here tonight, but I always think of her character, Araya, in your game, and how, it was snowing and she was from a warmer climate and, she was always cold. And, one time, I remember her arm got injured really bad, and she was like, and she's you continuing to carry that through in her role play. So I think things like reacting to weather and remembering to include things that are really realistic, and then interacting with the things that are going on and not just being like, oh, that's cool, let's just whatever, and just actually interacting and including the bits that the GM gives you in what you're doing. Next.
Should I jump in?
Yeah, you can jump in.
Oh, yeah, and I totally agree with Chris on that. And I know one of the things that when I think about realism and such is really trying to take into mind what the setting is and such. When I first got into D&D, is kind of more of a video game-esque kind of style, until it's where it's there'd be a few things that I'd be well, my character's going to go just search the body for items, and it's you're going to do that with the town watching you, and it's kind of oh, I guess that if you think about it, if I were to do something like that in our day, that would be really awkward and creepy. And so, just kind of
illegal.
So it's it's kind of one of those things. It's oh yeah, this is not a video game. And I know this is it's ducking on other.
Yeah, let me just go loot this dead body.
Yeah, it's not like Diablo or Champions of Nora. You can just kind of go forward.
Thinking about could you get away with that in your world? If you did, would your character really do something like that? If it's an apocalypse thing where it's you're trying to survive, and so it's hey, dead body, there might be something that I can use and that they're not using anymore. So okay, it might be applicable there, but for I'd say the general gaming world and whatnot, it's parallel to ours. So unless there's something explicit about it that says, yes, this is a socially acceptable thing, for the most part, what's not socially acceptable here probably isn't going to be socially acceptable there. And so just kind of keeping those rules in mind while playing gives it, in my opinion, a more real feel.
Yeah.
Emily.
What I had noticed when I started playing D&D is how some groups like to play it unrealistically. Even though it was my first time, I felt like there should be more to it. And don't get me wrong, that's just how some people like to play it. But my first time, so I give you an example. So they played with mats and the little guys, which is understandable. That's fun, your own way, you can do it. And we found our way to do it with our imagination, and we had to figure out exactly where we're at, by us explaining where we're at, which it's cool to see on a board where we're at and who's standing next to each other. But what I didn't like about the game is that they would explain how many spots you would jump, and oh, you can't stand next to them because you can only jump this so far, or something like that. It didn't seem realistic to me. So I was the one in the group trying to be, how I am, I joke about things and I want to say I'm going to go here and do this and that, and they're you can't really do that. I'm but that's not realistic. Who does that? I'm not going to jump in that spot over there because that's as far as my character can go, But I kind of liked that once I started playing with different groups, I noticed we had more of an imagination to say where we're at, and how we're going to do it. So it sounded more realistic to me. And so I started to get more comfortable with it, because my first time playing, I wasn't feeling it, because it felt so like board gamey.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't feel like I was in it. And now, like, I know that we're playing it just by our words. Even me playing with the mat now, like, it's more that I get it now. And, like, I like that it's more,
Mind.
yeah, like, I like that. Like, I like that now. It's just, and I think that's everybody's way of playing differently. But I feel it more realistically playing that way and bringing the world, bringing the world to life. For me, that's my opinion. It brings more life to the game.
All right. I think mine would be just what players do in the off time. So if you're just playing a game that's just going around running and killing things and then collecting loot, as fun as that can be, it doesn't feel super realistic to me. So having our group where they actually stop and shop, where they stop and make food, where they pray, where they get mad at each other and talk and argue, all those things makes the game
we actually
feel more alive.
I was gonna say our characters actually have inside jokes, and I think that's amazing, and it does feel more realistic that way, because we actually get into it.
I think that things like shopping and downtime, your characters bond more, and then you end up with those inside jokes because you actually come together as characters and not just
players,
random people in a party.
Right. Yeah. It's like hanging out, like actually in your character.
All right. So our next question: how can a GM make the stakes more important? Are you going to say in order, or just kind of want to?
Mary wants to start.
So Chris and I were talking about this earlier, where I think it's really great when a GM, DM, whatever terminology you want to use, takes into consideration their players' characters. The most recent one shot I played in was with Jacob, insert last name, and he
Norman.
Thank you, Norman.
Mini terrain domain for those who want to look him up.
He was lots of fun to play with, and then what I really liked was he had us players answer about 6 questions, and they were kind of personal, like what is your character's greatest accomplishment? What is your character's greatest fear? Who is their arch nemesis? What is like a favorite memory? And a few others. And he later in the game had something that he was trying out where he'd roll a die to randomly kind of be like, okay, we're not going to implement this thing here, kind of improvising it into his setting and into the story as things are unfolding. And he just do this one at a time. We're going to do this character now. Roll, okay. And I thought it was really neat because when DMs do that, especially when I think I especially like when it's unexpected, because I know as a player I try to put in my effort of this is my character, this is kind of their backstory and why they're here in your setting, and so when those are thrown in, those bits that are meaningful to your character that the DM will pick up on, I feel like it gives more focus, more reason why your character's there. It's I mentioned that I really hate mean people. So you threw a mean person into your game. I am going to stop them. And so, I don't know. I feel there's more drive to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, I another reason why I should have that question up in front of me to make sure I go correctly. But so I guess if I'm going correctly with this, DMs should make sure they kind of check out what their players' characters are like. Give them a few questions that you want them to answer, or if you don't, if you're just hey, create a character, take the time to kind of look at what they have going for their character. If they have something interesting to work with and that you can see into your game, go for it. Throw it in there, and that way it will help. In my opinion, I feel that would really help.
I feel like this is... Another way DMs can also raise the stakes of a game is to give the players a reason to care about the world. So for me, a lot of times I try putting in NPCs in specific locations where they're actually going around trying to help, and give them a reason not only to care about the city and the NPC itself, so that gives them the drive to actually want to protect and defend something. If you find your players aren't interested in the world and the setting, they're not going to care if it's about to be destroyed by something. So that's what you really want to try hitting, is giving them a reason to actually be heroes, not just murder hobos.
And I like that as you as a DM, you tend to do that when it comes to certain missions. You tend to involve your characters, like, your players, and that's what I think, DMs should put in mind is it keeps the players interested. And I think
I feel like it's such an obvious answer though.
No, but it bringing their goals and their dreams of their character into whatever's going on, even if it has nothing to do with the mission at the point. Like, you can mention that so and so like sent a letter or something, or you ran into so and so, like something that's going on with you personally, like you run into them in the town or something.
Yeah.
So like Shay's sister, like it's like has nothing to do with the storyline, but it has something to do with their personal characters' lives. And I like that about that.
Yeah, that definitely drives into what Marion was saying too. You have to drive characters.
Yeah. Right, and I believe that raises the stakes pretty high, because not a lot of people do that, and I think that's a good thing to put into a game. But I think that's a good answer.
Definitely. I think another thing too, though, is like not just making it about money and treasure. Like,
as nice as those two things are.
Yeah, as nice as those things are, it's not enough. Money's not everything.
Challenging. It's challenging. Like
things that are, and like even if the rewards are something more personal. So, something that you can truly use, or something that's meaningful to the goals of that person. Maybe that character's thing is like, I play a wizard in the 2nd edition game I'm in, and she's really high level, and I don't even really know what she wants, but I think like one thing that really appeals to her is finishing this thing up so she can go back to this amazing library that we found along the way. So putting things in the game that mean something, or
or like Shay going to the island to basically scout for her future homeland.
So basically making things harder on the character, so it's more of a, like, once it's achieved, it feels more like you've done something. Like, it's not just like
something that's more meaningful.
Right.
Just money.
Right. Because they put thought into it.
Yeah.
I still remember the first game where that moment happened, where I just felt myself like in character because of what my DM had done. Like, I was still very much new, and I had created Araya, and so I was like, oh, she's gonna be a fallen angel, and this is why she's a vigilante. Like, that was the bottom line. Just kind of gave this little background of like, yeah, she believes that her god is corrupt, and got mad at him, got casted out, and of course more to it, but not going to go into that for this. And like, within the first 2 sessions, she discovers that indeed her god is corrupted and working with the evil that he has had his followers for so long fight against. And she's just like, why is he working with him? Like, and yeah, my head exploded. My character's head exploded, and I was like, hooked, because I'm like, okay, I gotta figure out like what is going on. Why are these opposites working together? And so,
wow. So let's see. Next question. How can we get more people playing?
I think the way we're doing it right now is really, really good. From everyone saying a while ago, D&D used to be kind of a closeted nerd thing that was mostly just a whole bunch of boys playing it. Now that D&D has permeated past just this idea of only nerds, or maybe the idea that nerds can be cool has arisen, you're finding a lot more on the D&D side. YouTube channels with shows making it sound cool and interesting, having a positive role model. having people like Matt Mercer try to include all types of people. And then we're also seeing the very same thing also happen within our more smaller spheres. D&D groups where they're inviting anybody and new players, making it really, really easy to access. Having online materials explaining how to run a game, to even giving out full entire storylines for people to be able to play really takes the edge off of first coming into this game, which involves 3 books right off the bat that you have to read. It can now be something that's digested in little under than probably 30 minutes of reading, and now you can set up a game for friends.
Right, and I feel like people don't shy away from it as much anymore too.
No, yeah, it's not like the devil anymore.
Yeah, I'll have
people
like
doing the druid.
Right. And I'll openly talk about it too, and I think that's what, if you openly talk about it around people who have never been around that kind of like world, like they're not used to that and they've never heard about it, and they probably have always been curious about it because they see it in TV shows now, or they hear, like they once heard about it or something. Like at work, I'll talk about it, like if it's one of my interests, because I'm not embarrassed to talk about something like that. It's amazing to me, like it's fun. And I get a lot of people asking me about it, and I think that's one thing that like will get more people to want to be players, because if you're mentioning it around people who've never, thought about doing it, and you finally explain how you play, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that's how it was. I thought it was an RPG game, or I thought it was just a video game. No, like I explain it right. I'll sit there and explain it, and like I guess I come off so passionately to them about the game, especially when we're playing, and I get a lot of people asking me if they can play. Like, and I tell Nate that. I say, hey, like there's people who bug me to play, or there's people who ask me, like they're curious about it. And I guess it's just opening more minds, and people, like I said, people aren't as shy to talk about something like this because it's not considered nerdy anymore. Like, I mean, it in a way.
Nerdy,
but it's nerdy, but it's cool.
Yeah, it's not like the basement. It doesn't have the same idea, which is everyone's just basement dwelling, little troglodyte.
No, yeah, and people think it's cool.
Famous actors playing and
right,
and being vocal about the fact that they play.
See, and putting it out there, it gets more people to want to play it because they didn't know. Nobody explained it to them. Like, they don't sit there and like they search for it themselves. Like when they hear somebody talk about it so passionately, I'm sure they're like, "Oh, that sounds fun."
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, taking that conversation a step further and like, giving them options and ideas. We were recently at AtCon. We never talk about AtCon. We were just recently at AtCon. And one of the nights, actually before the convention started, there was an evening that a bunch of us did like a pre-con thing and went out. And we were explaining some people at this bar we were at, like, why we were there. And somebody's like, hey, so-and-so would be into that. And so, I don't know if he's gone and tried the game as a result of talking to us or not, because of course we have no way to follow up. But like, I made a point of inviting him to the con. And then, when he said, well, I actually have to work, I said, well, you should check out this group and check out this. And you can actually jump in online if you want. There's a lot of great GMs. And I feel like when you give them options of like, there's all these ways you can play. And also I try to feel out like, what are they interested in? Like, D&D is such a synonymous, it's kind of become synonymous. It's like Coke or Kleenex, it's like D&D is the big name, but a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of other games and a lot of other genres. And if you're not into medieval fantasy, but you're into cyberpunk, there's a game for that. If you're
those.
If you're into pirate stuff, there's a game for that. If you're into Star Wars, whoa, we got a great game for that. There's lots and lots of games. And for people who don't like complicated systems, there's really super simple.
Right. And I was gonna say that too. When they feel like they don't have the right tools, I try to explain to them, like, it doesn't, you don't have to go out and buy the book. That's really if you want to, but like, there's apps for it now. Like, if you don't have dice, you don't have to go out and buy dice. There's an app for that. There's like a ton of apps for it. Yeah. And you basically build it off of what you want it to be, what you imagine it to be. Like, you don't have to have all these tools.
Totally. And I always tell people about the free basic rules.
Right.
Yes.
Go get the free rules. Check out the game first. If you like
it. basically print the paper out from online or keep it online.
If it's not your shtick, keep your mind open, because maybe, think about what it is you're not liking, because maybe there's a different game or a different genre.
Or it's the DM, or, it depends on everything, too.
For me, start them young.
What?
Do what?
Start them young.
Yes.
Build them up.
Yes.
And what I do is I call it interactive storytelling, where we're basically with these 4 or 5 year olds, like, and you can base it off of just like your relationship with the child. Like, are they able to hold a conversation? Are they able to think of a character, and just kind of like building blocks, where taking shows and like, oh, what about you be Sky from Paw Patrol and we'll go on this adventure, and and the family that I'm working with right now, like, there's been a little bit of the older child going like, yeah, our parents don't like that we play D&D, because like I've crossed over. It's like, I'm technically teaching you guys how to play D&D, but I'm calling it interactive storytelling because we're not using much of the rules. And like when he said that, I just remember thinking to myself, like, are they basing it off of like all that past stuff? Because I would be happy to sit down with them and be like, it's not just senseless killing or anything. Like, there, you can cater this to children, where it's like it promotes critical thinking and whatnot and problem solving, and yeah, because I watch particularly, I'm really good at it. So it's a tool that I like to use to engage children in fantasy play and to kind of give them those opportunities, like, without directly saying, do you think that was a good decision or not? And like in relation to like real life events that they do as their kids, but like presenting those through play, and kind of like what I don't know, I remember in elementary school where they would do these role plays of like, hey, was that a good thing that so-and-so did? So I don't know, it's a nice platform. I think getting kids involved in it as well sets up for more players in the future.
I think that is an amazing idea. Like, I want to bring that into, because I want to be a teacher for elementary school kids, and I think that's awesome that you bring that up, because I kind of want to bring that into it now. Yep. But I've kind of seen it in different forms, like how you said, like teachers, I've seen teachers bring it where it's like you're a historical figure and you have to do these choices, and they play out the story into what your choices you picked, and I think that's another great idea that you bring up.
Yep. How would history have been changed if this choice had been made? Yeah, but also let's not forget math. Like, there's a lot of opportunities to practice math depending on the game you choose.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And learning even the geometric shapes from the dice and stuff. There's a lot of great
teaching skills in there.
Yeah.
Think about it. Yeah.
So if you're a parent out there as children, don't shy from playing D&D, because like there's a lot of good. It's not just like, it is what you make the story to be.
Yeah, and I don't think the parents should be stopping them from that, because they should give their children more of an open mind and choice making, They should see it that way, not the negatives of it.
Well, yeah, that's why, like
just another teaching skill.
One of those situations where I'm like, he probably said something and miscommunicated, because like if the parents really did have an issue, I know they would talk to me. They're not one of those, we're gonna skirt around this. Like, hey,
I think it's just a misunderstanding of what it is.
Let's not let this get too long, guys.
Sorry. I know I kind of derailed that into like.
Yeah, ethics of teaching and D&D in class. Nope, I'm not touching that one. All right, next question. How has the game surprised you? All of you. Has D&D surprised you?
Well, not necessarily a game.
Well,
any game.
Any RPG game.
Can I speak first?
Sure.
No.
I'm sorry, I talk a lot. I feel like I've like, so I've mostly played Nate's game, but from his game, like I feel like it's opened me up to a whole new world, basically. Like, I didn't know I was gonna get this in depth. I know he's a good storyteller. I've heard him storytell before I started D&D with him, but I felt myself getting like in depth with my character, and like I started feeling, you know, I had actual feelings for like my other, like our friends and stuff. So like when Torvald, when he was gone, like I felt emotional. You know, there's things that happen in the game where you feel it, like you actually feel it, and like you feel like these connections with your, you know, your best friends in the game, or you feel anger towards like something that's like trying to kill your partner or something. Like you feel yourself get really involved into the games when things like that happen. And I see the emotional aspect of myself. I'm becoming emotionally involved into something.
I have bawled in a game. Thankfully, the game was like one of the things where the DM and I are like, well, I guess we could hash this out since you're not with the group at the moment, and then have you ready to jump back in. And it was another one of those where he took same character Raya, where I'm on this mission figuring out why are these two gods working together when they absolutely loathe each other, and then come to find out her sister, who she thought was dead, who she was pretty certain she had killed, is actually alive, and she is the culprit who got the two deities to work together. It was a mess. But my character is just like in this like, you're alive? Oh my gosh. You're evil? Oh my gosh.
Drama.
And you're giving me the choice to kill you again. And like, I remember just there where it's like, I'm in full character where it's like, she's just wrestling with
That's a hard
like,
choice.
You can't be evil. I can't kill her because she's alive, but if I don't kill her, she's going to keep doing evil things. And I ended up killing her. And I'm just like downstairs bawling. Like, my friend who's running it, like, he's just like, he's like upstairs in the different rooms. We're living together at the time. He's just kind of there going like, any minute, Steven, my husband, is going to come in and kill me. Like, oh my gosh, but it just like surprised me at how it just it tore me to my soul. It was just so like afterwards the next day as I like calmed down, I'm like, what the hell was that?
I am involved.
I am Mary. That's Araya. That was absolutely horrible of my DM to do that to me.
I had that happen in the Star Wars in the Edge of the Empire game that I play over on Chalice of Change. If you want to see me lose it, go watch the Sunday Sandbox. Oh my gosh. And we actually lost 2 characters within 24 hours of in-game time. It took us weeks, to play and stuff, but it was about 24 hours of game time. And one of the characters I wasn't so much that close to, but it was just that he sacrificed himself for us. Spoiler alert. And the other one completely blindsided me. I didn't know it was going to happen. I had no clue. It was a complete surprise to all of us. And I lost it. Like, I couldn't even talk. I was crying so hard. And that did surprise me. And I think, and I've actually done it in Nate's game too. We had a one-on-one session where he had me in tears. But I think it just surprised me that I was able to really put myself in the shoes of my character and really be her for a little while. Especially, I mean, Star Wars is so like outside of anything familiar, right? In real life for me. But man, yeah, I was there and I just, yeah. So I think emotions I agree that's like a big one, how emotional.
I have another example when everyone else is gone.
So you guys kind of brought up the one that I was going to say, so I guess I'll go with a different route. And then on the other spectrum is how aggressive my players can get at each other because of games. So I haven't really had this with my home game with the Rose's Request, but I had it with the home game with my family. And yeah, as a DM, you have to help control the madness that gets on with arguing about rules or arguing about play style or arguing about if my character would do this or my character would do that. It's just the vitriol, because you get so emotional and tied into the game, and then you really have to be careful because you have to make sure it stays in the player or your character and not to the player to player. Because I think we had a moment with that with Emily and my mom actually getting at each other for something that happened in game that had really is like, whoa, where did all this hate come from?
Well, it wasn't just from me. It's when you have a partner in your game, and the partner wants to kill everything and not even living things, just want to blow up everything and take ships from like a whole crew. Yes, it becomes complicated.
As you can tell, she's still pissed about that. I forgot
I'm
about
very
what it was.
passionate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sometimes you get a character who I think this is another thing that surprises me about this is something that specifically surprises me about Star Wars. And it's probably going to surprise me in other games too, but particularly with Edge of the Empire, it is definitely a game where everybody's in it for their own thing. It's not like like our medieval fantasy game where everybody's there united for a common cause. In Edge, we're like, everybody's got kind of their own goals. And
that sounds hard to keep up.
It's really hard, and it's especially hard when you have somebody who's absolutely counter to really what the rest of the group wants, even in where they are coming together. And that's been hard. Like, that has surprised me, because I had this mindset that when you play RPGs, the whole point is to play together and be a team and accomplish a goal together. But that's not necessarily true. And yeah, it really surprised me. And I didn't really know, what to think of that. And now I have to kind of adjust my mindset of like, hey, I got to learn that it's every character for themselves and be ready to be scrappy or whatever I need to be to make it happen.
Remember that one time I surprised Jinx? Anyways.
We may not be able to remain friends.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. We're going to be taking a cut off here because it's already hit 20 minutes. So just keep an eye out for our next video where we're going to be doing 10 through 12, last three. I'm pretty sure we can get some good conversations out of there. So yeah, just stick around, watch, and get out there and get to gaming, please.
Bye, y'all.